Welcome to BAM Adventures. Today we look at part 2 of our 2016 Ruby Princess cruise to Alaska. After a very early morning sail into Endicott Arm Fjord, we then proceeded to Alaska's capital city of Juneau. The location of where we docked was a little bit removed from the city center itself, but it was pretty cool because we got to see we were right by this tram that went up and down the mountain there. We did not do that excursion because we had a jam-packed day full ahead of us. Our excursion for the day was to go to the Mendenhall glacier, and after that we would proceed to a whale watching tour. It was a great day and I'm excited to share it with you. Having learned our lesson in Ketchikan about the Alaska weather, you could see that we went prepared this time with plenty of jackets and rain gear ready to go. We took the bus to the Mendenhall Glacier. It was nice. It wasn't too overly crowded or anything, and it didn't take too long, maybe 20, 30 minutes, something like that. But it wasn't too long a drive. Then we arrived at the Mendenhall Glacier, and it was stunning. Getting to see the Mendenhall Glacier right after we have sailed up the Endicott Arm Fjord to see the glacier there, it was really a cool experience to get to see a different kind of glacier. Obviously, the Mendenhall Glacier, which is a little bit inland, has created this lake which as it has drawn back. And it has lots of waterfalls all around, and you get pretty close to it. Lots of different hiking trails. We took one. And we went across a river, and due to the time of year that it was, we were able to see, we looked down the river and it just looked like a red mass because of all the salmon that were there. So late July, early August, if you're wanting to see salmon in the rivers, you can definitely spot quite a few of them. But yeah, this scenery was just absolutely gorgeous. That's the river we're talking about right there that you're seeing. And it was really a gorgeous, gorgeous day, even though the weather was not that great. But it was still amazing to get that close to a glacier, to see the Alaskan scenery around, get to go down a couple of hiking trails. Really cool experience. I think both of us agreed that we wish we'd had a little bit more time at Mendenhall because we only had about an hour before we had to get going to get to our whale watching tour. So these pictures that are coming up are some of my favorites because they give you an idea of the size of everything that we're seeing at this time. So this picture coming up, if you look closely, you can see that there's a person standing next to the waterfall, and the person is obviously dwarfed by the size of this waterfall, which really just shows how massive all of these structures are. And even though we feel like we're close to them, it's still, you don't get a sense of how massive they are until you're right next to them. After our Mendenhall, we got on the bus and we headed down to the port where we got on this boat, which was kind of a two-level boat that had an inside and outside part for whale watching. And we sailed down, and Ashley and I spent most of our time on the outside, even though it was pouring rain, because, we paid to see whales. We wanted to be out there to see them when we could. We pretty much immediately were able to see some seals, and we were about to see a whole lot of whales. We were very, very lucky in what we got to see. We saw a mother and its calf, and they were breaching quite a lot, as you can see here. It was a really cool experience. It was Ashley's favorite excursion or moment of the entire cruise, and it was up there for me as well. I've never seen anything like it, and absolutely cannot wait to get back to Alaska to be able to see it again. The whale watching excursion was an absolute blast. I highly recommend anyone who is going on an Alaskan cruise to find a whale watching expedition to go on. I don't know that it matters what port. The whales are all around the inside passage area in Alaska, so you should have a decent chance anywhere, but especially in Juneau. This was a really good excursion. The Mendenhall combined with the whale watching, it was a good excursion, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. We had a pretty late departure from Juneau, which allowed us to kind of see the city lit up at night, which was really a cool sight to see. So we left Juneau after a really great day, seeing the glacier and seeing the whales, and then we headed to Skagway. Now in Skagway, by far the most popular excursion is to go on the White Pass Yukon Railroad, which goes on the old Gold Rush Trail. So we did end up doing that. As we walked to the train, we saw the Disney Wonder, which was the first time we had seen the Disney. We had mostly been followed by a Norwegian ship, I believe it was a Norwegian Sun, and several Holland America ships. So that was kind of cool to see. Now this is an excursion that I particularly was really looking forward to. I've always been a big fan of trains ever since I was a little kid. So this one really appealed to me. I thought it was going to be a blast, and it turned out to not disappoint us at all. You kind of start off going up the mountain and seeing the river and some small little waterfalls. That really interesting part that the guides told us about is that the waterfalls are in different locations every single day. So they said that because it rains so much there, they never know where the waterfalls are going to be from day to day, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, the scenery was just fantastic, and we enjoyed about a 2-hour trip up the mountain to cross into Canada. So this was kind of a cool aspect to our ride up the mountain. This is a kind of a bridge to nowhere. I guess it used to be part of the rail system, and it's very old. And on the particular day we went up there, as you could see, it was covered in cloud and fog, and it really looked kind of spooky. So that was kind of a cool little aspect to our ride up the mountain on the train. So on the excursion, the train takes you up pretty much to where the border to US and Canada are. It briefly crosses into Canada, and then basically it just changes where the engine is and it goes right back down. I believe that there are some options where you could just book the train up and then maybe take a bus down or something like that. It'd be a little bit quicker. We rode both ways. We wanted to get as much of the great views in as we could, and it was really a good way to spend the afternoon. Afterwards, we walked around town a little bit, then we went back to the ship, got dressed up for a formal night, and we had a really nice evening in Skagway. So from Skagway, we had a sea day, and that was heading back southward, back towards Seattle. But first, right before we would get back to Seattle late that evening, we had a stop in Victoria, Canada. This was a pretty short excursion, as we only had maybe 5 hours or so, something like that. We did book a excursion here to Bouchard Gardens, and it was really a nice little night. Bouchard Gardens is gorgeous. We had read some information prior to it that the oxygen level in Bouchard Gardens is actually several percentage points higher than in other areas that we normally traverse because of all of the foliage and the plants and everything and what they do to oxygenate the air there. We didn't necessarily notice a difference in that regard, but we did think that it was just a really pretty place to be. There were some fireworks to end the night, and Ashley is a huge fan of fireworks, so she loved that. And we just really enjoyed wrapping up our cruise in a beautiful surrounding and having a good time in Victoria, Canada. As the sun began to set and darkness began to fall in Bouchard Gardens, we began to make our way over to the area where the fireworks were set to go off. Bouchard Gardens was so pretty with so many different beautiful locations within it, but the highlight was definitely getting to see these fireworks at night in such a beautiful location. We truly could not have asked for a better way to wrap up our 7-day Alaskan cruise on the Ruby Princess. It was beautiful, from the scenery to the wildlife to the fireworks. Every single moment was incredibly special, and we're so glad that you joined us for the journey. If you enjoyed watching this and you don't want to miss any of our future videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a lot, and we would really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you.